video course, we will learn how to create amazing dashboards using Cognos Analytics version 11.1. Hello friends, my name is Abhishek. I have been working in reporting and analytics industry since 16 years. I have delivered countless reporting solutions using Cognos and other business analytics tools. I'm really happy to present you this course, and I strongly believe that this version of Cognos, called version 11.1, has got great future in the space of analytics. It is based on a strong foundation of its time-proved calculation engine, and it has got ability to connect a wide variety of data sources. This tool provides a robust data modeling capability and stunning visualizations along with the flexibility that any dashboard or report author would need. Let's look at the contents of this course. This course is divided in 7 sections. In first section, I will introduce you to business analytics. We will look at the high-level architecture of Cognos, and we will also look at how to create free account to use Cognos Analytics in cloud. In second section, we will look at the welcome portal. If you have been using Cognos Business Intelligence from before, then in this section, we will compare those old versions with the latest version as well. Then we move on to section 3, where we talk about data. We will learn how to connect Cognos to data sources, as well as uploading data using files. In section 4, we will create data modules using the files that we uploaded. We will look at dimensions, measures, and joins and cardinalities. We will also see how to create calculations and few other topics related to data modeling. In section 5, we come to building the dashboard. We will use various visualizations and widgets to build the dashboard using Cognos Analytics. In section 6, we cover some advanced features related to data modules and dashboards. This section will upgrade you from a basic user to an advanced user of data modeling and dashboard functionalities. And finally, in section 7, look at a new kind of artifact called story, which is literally a replacement for PowerPoint presentations. And we will give finishing touches to our dashboard and story and prepare it for sharing with the audience in various formats. Let's look at some prerequisites for this course. In order to get the most out of this course, you need to have basic understanding of tabular data. For example, data stored in Excel sheets. You also need some basic arithmetic knowledge so that you can understand when I talk about totals, averages, ratios, etc. It will also be great if you have exposure to data-driven reports. For example, sales reports, survey results, and financial reports. This is useful even though not mandatory. In same way, any familiarity with the visualizations like bar charts, line charts, and pie diagram will also be helpful, though it is not mandatory. So what are the goals of this video course? The course is aimed to teach you how to model the data and analyze it using Cognos Analytics tool. In this course, you will learn how to create beautiful dashboard that will impress as well as convey meaningful information. You will learn how to build content-driven presentations, which will automatically update whenever the data is updated at the source. I expect this course to be very useful to the senior management users who like to analyze the data of their organization, for example, sales, profits, costs, and then identify the parameters which are driving them. This course will also be very useful for business analysts, data analysts, and operational users of Cognos dashboards. Lastly, I'm also hoping that this course is going to be useful for the students who are learning data analytics and would like to represent the statistical information visually. So without further ado, let's get started. I look forward to see you in the course. Hi, welcome to section 1, Introduction and High-Level Architecture. In this video, we will learn what is Cognos Analytics. Before we talk about Cognos, let's learn what is analytics. Analytics refers to the discovery of useful information from data and communicating it in an effective way. Analytics tools bring in capabilities to join datasets in a way that allow turning data into insights, and businesses can use these insights for their decision making. Let's look at some examples of how various industries have been using analytics. A leading coffee chain uses analytics over their customers' order history. By looking at the trends and relations in the order history, they can predict the future. This makes following things possible. Personalized recommendations. They can generate customized offers on the customer's mobile app. This will be not only for the products that customer is more likely to buy, but also produced at certain time of the day when the customer is more likely to respond to the offer or the advertisement. They can use analytics to decide when and where to offer the new products so that they are successful. And finally, they can use it for effective supply chain management. That is, to bring in right stock at the right time in the stores to avoid the wastage. Another example is banks and credit card companies. By looking at the customer spending habits, banks and credit card companies can offer very suitable products to the customers. They can even tie up with other retailers, aviation companies, etc. and make sure that the customers remain loyal to them. Pharma industry has also been using analytics successfully in all the aspects of the business, right from the drug research to bringing product in the market at the right time and the right place. Pharmaceutical industry is known to use analytics. So, analytics is helping driving business decisions like choice of market and products. It makes organizational changes more effective. It helps with supply chain efficiency by bringing right stock at the right time and avoiding wastage without losing business opportunities. And finally, it allows with predicting future. For example, forecasting the financials based on history and hence performing course correction. In general, analytics allows finding correlations and patterns and root cause for many problems. IBM Cognos Analytics. IBM Cognos Analytics is a cloud-based business intelligence and analytical solution that makes it easy to visualize, analyze, and share insights from the underlying data. It also gives us ability to share the data with others in a controlled environment with data protection capabilities. It is a widely used dashboard and report building tool. Cognos is available in 3 deployment options called Cloud Multi-Tenant, Cloud Single-Tenant, and On-Premise. Cloud Multi-Tenant is available right from single license. Yes, you can start using Cognos in cloud by just purchasing single license or paying for it every month. Slightly larger setup than that is called Cloud Single-Tenant. If you would like to make sure that all of your data sits in one dedicated server and no one else will be able to access the server, then a cloud instance dedicated to you can be set up. And this will need minimum 25 licenses. And finally, on-premise version is a classic deployment method, where Cognos software will be deployed on your own servers. You can find out more information about Cognos deployment options by clicking on this link. For the rest of this course, we are going to use the Cloud Multi-Tenant. In our next video, we will talk about setting up account for Cognos on cloud. Hello, in this video we will see how to set up account on IBM website for Cognos on cloud. So I need you to first open any browser and go to this website called myibm.ibm.com. When the website loads, it will prompt you to log in with your IBM ID. If you don't have one, you can create it for free by clicking on this link called Create an IBM ID. On this form, you are required to provide some basic information like your first name, last name, email address, and postal address. You are also required to set up a password for your account. Once you have filled all these information, you can click on Next, and IBM website will send a verification email to your email address. When you receive the email, you can copy the verification code from that email and paste it here, and then finally click on Create Account button. That's all. Now you can log on using the newly created ID and password. So let's go back to myibm.ibm.com and log in using the username and password which you just created. Once you are logged in, look for the View Catalog option and click on it. Here you can find all the products that IBM offers. We are going to look for Cognos, which is under Analytics. So click on Analytics. And now look for IBM Cognos Analytics in Cloud. On this page, you can read about the product and then subscribe to it. As we can see that IBM offers discounts as well. For this course, you can just go ahead with the free trial. So let's click on the Start Trial on Cloud button. And now we can see that the product is available. We can open it by clicking on the Launch button. So congratulations, you have just created an IBM ID and subscribed for a free trial of Cognos Analytics in Cloud. If you would like to make any change to your plan, then you go back to the My IBM space and click on the Manage button. Here you can make changes to your plan or extend the access to this product beyond the trial period. In our next video, we will take a look at high-level architecture of Cognos Analytics. Thank you for watching. High-level architecture of Cognos Analytics. IBM Cognos runs on a 3-tier architecture. They are called Web Tier, Application Tier, and Data Tier. Here we see Web Tier on the top. Web Tier consists of one or more Cognos gateways that run on a web server. Developers as well as end users use the web interface of the product, and their requests are served by the gateways on the web server. Now let's come to the second tier called Application Tier. Application Tier consists of the Cognos application servers. Cognos gateways forward the requests to these application servers. And application servers run many services like query service, report service, batch service, etc. These services execute the requests received from the gateway, such as the requests of reports, analysis, and queries. Lastly, Data Tier contains the content store, data sources, and metric store. In this diagram, you see content store on left-hand side at the bottom. It is the database in which Cognos holds information, like dashboard definitions, report definitions, access information, and user IDs and passwords in the encrypted form. On the right-hand side, we see the box called API. This represents the collection of APIs which Cognos uses to connect to a variety of external databases to fetch the data from. Here we are seeing a distributed architecture with load balancing. In a larger setup, when you expect many users to access the reports at the same time, you would set up multiple web servers to balance the load. You would also set up multiple application servers so that requests can be served without wait time. You can install all of these components on multiple physical or virtual servers, and they will communicate to each other as required. That way you can utilize more hardware power, for example RAM and CPU, by creating a grid of servers. This way distributed architecture allows a lot of flexibility and options to optimize the performance. So we learned about the Cognos architecture and distributed architecture. In our next video, let's understand the sample files that you will use in this course. Understanding sample data files. Welcome to this last video of the section, Understanding the sample data files. Along with this video course, you have received some files with .csv extension. CSV stands for comma separated values. So the .csv files are the data files in which data is stored with comma separation. You can easily open them in Excel or Notepad to view the contents. These CSV files are the data files that you will upload on Cognos Analytics in cloud. These will be stored in the content store, and their data will be available to build the dashboard as we progress in this course. I have supplied 5 files, and they contain data of a fictitious bank. Let's imagine that you have the costs data for all the branches of this bank, like infrastructure costs and staff costs. These branches have the client advisors, and you also have the client advisors' performance data, like invested assets, fees, and commissions. You will upload these files and try to find the relationships and patterns, and tell the story through dashboard on how to improve the profits. These data files, shown on the right-hand side, are called facts or measures. On the left-hand side of the screen, I've listed the supporting files called dimensions or hierarchies. These files will provide useful information like names and descriptions for the branches, employees, and products. You will need to use them with the fact files because the fact files contain only unique identifiers like branch IDs, employee IDs, and product IDs. Please note that this data is completely fictitious and there is no relation to any real bank at all. By the end of this course, you will have built a dashboard that uses these files and conveys a clear, actionable message. I look forward to seeing you in the next section called Exploring Welcome Portal. Section 2. Exploring Welcome Portal. Welcome Portal is the new unified interface for all consumers, power users, authors, and administrators. In this section, you will learn about this interface and create your first dashboard. Welcome Portal. When we launch Cognos Analytics, it loads this interface in the new tab of the browser. This interface is called the Welcome Portal. The first thing that meets your eye is this welcome message. Below the welcome message, you will find these shortcuts for the tour of the product, short videos explaining how to use this tool, and link to some sample dashboards and reports. When you scroll down, you see this list of recent items. It is very handy to find the dashboards, stories, and reports that you have viewed recently. If this list is empty, don't worry. It will build up quickly as you start using this tool. Once you become familiar with Cognos, you may not want to see this welcome message each time you log on, and hence you can easily turn them off by clicking on this option called Show Welcome. Once switched off, you will only see the recent items on this welcome page. Now, let's scroll up. The blue bar on top is called Application Bar. On the application bar in the middle, notice that there is a label called Welcome. If you click on it, a small drop-down appears. This drop-down enables switching from one open dashboard to another open dashboard. In the older Cognos versions, it was not possible to open multiple dashboards or reports in the same tab of the browser. Whereas now you can open several dashboards and reports within one browser and then switch between them using this drop-down. You can also set a dashboard or report as your home page, so that instead of seeing this welcome page, you will directly see that selected dashboard or report which you have set as a home page each time you log on. You will learn how to do that later in this course. Below the application bar, we see this alert banner. Alert banners are useful to publish certain messages to alert all the users. For example, notifying them of upcoming downtime for maintenance. Only system administrators can add new alert messages in this banner, and it is not possible in the multi-tenant cloud environment which we are using. We can hide the alerts by clicking on the dismiss option. Now let's look at these options on the left-hand side. The first button will bring you back to the home page from any other dashboard or page that you may have opened. It is similar to clicking on the menu from top and selecting the home page. The third and the fourth icons here are called My Content and Team Content areas. Let's first learn about them. This icon opens My Content area. My Contents is the folder which is your private area, and only you can see the contents which are stored here. You can save data modules, dashboards, and stories here, and you will be able to find them and open them anytime you log on with your own ID. However, if someone else logs on to IBM Cognos with their ID, which is obviously different from your ID, then they will not be able to see any of your items. So this area is completely secured and accessible only to yourself. Whereas this icon opens Team Content. This is the area where you will save the data modules, dashboards, and reports so that others can find them and open them. Typically, the items in Team Contents are organized in folders. It is possible to control the access in Team Contents as well. That means it is possible to control which folders are visible to which users. This is done by creating user groups and granting access on the folders to certain user groups. You will need the help from System Administrator to do that. As you are using the single user cloud license, saving anything in Team Contents is not allowed. This is because with the single license, it is expected that you will save all your contents in the My Contents area only. However, you will be able to access the samples from Team Contents for learning purposes. Now let's come to the second option called Search. It is placed above My Contents and Team Contents buttons because it is more frequently used. When you click on it, it opens the search panel where you can type one or more keywords and then tap Enter to search. Cognos will search for these keywords in My Contents as well as Team Contents areas. It will look for these keywords not only in the names of the dashboards and reports, but it will also search in the tables, column labels, XML report specifications, URL items, shortcuts, templates, and much more. For example, if you type sales and then hit enter, you will find these entries. While policy analysis data module doesn't contain the word sales in the title, it shows up because it contains a table called sales. Users typically use search panel more frequently than going into Team Contents or My Contents and then locating an item. When you find any item in the search panel, or even in Team Contents and My Contents panels, you will see this overflow icon next to them. When you click on the icon, it will show the options which are appropriate to this item. In order to open any dashboard or data module, you can either tap on its name, or you can open the context menu and select the appropriate option. Now let's look at moving or copying any item. You can right-click on any dashboard or data module, and you will get the option to move or copy it. If you want to perform this operation on multiple items, you can click on this icon to select the item, and then you can hold Ctrl key or Shift key down on the keyboard and then select the other items. This way, you can select multiple items, and now right-click on these selected items, and you will be able to move, copy, or delete these items together. Now, let's come to this fourth icon. This icon opens Recent panel. This panel will show the recently viewed items. And it is very useful because users typically end up accessing their favorite 5 to 10 dashboards and reports repeatedly. This list is similar to the recent items that we see on the welcome page. While we are learning about this interface, let's also learn how to create new folders. And I want you to try this with me. Please click on the My Contents icon, and then in this panel, click on the plus icon on the top. You will see the options to create a folder, URL, or upload a file. Please tap on the folder option, and now a new folder is created. Give it a name as Section 2 Achievements. You will use this folder when you create your first dashboard later in this section. So I hope that you are now comfortable to navigate in this Cognos space. I look forward to seeing you in the next video called Where is Repo Studio Gone? Where is Report Studio gone? If you have already been using Cognos version 10, then you must be finding this Cognos Analytics interface a little bit confusing. Up to version 10, Cognos was called Cognos Business Intelligence. Version 11 is called Cognos Analytics, and it is the next version of Cognos Business Intelligence. Cognos Analytics brings in dramatic changes in the way dashboard and reports are authored as well as consumed. So in this video, let's learn how Cognos has evolved. Earlier, Cognos Connection was the entry point to Cognos BI. Cognos Connection was the SharePoint-like interface in which you could locate the reports and then execute from there. However, in order to author, you would have used other tools like Report Studio, Workspace, and Workspace Advanced. In Cognos Analytics, all these tools are unified as one tool. And some of the terminologies have also changed. If you are used to of the old terminologies or the names of the tools, then you will find this comparison helpful. In the old world, Cognos Connection used to be a SharePoint-like interface. The equivalent space for it in Analytics is the Welcome portal. Public folder and My folder are now replaced with the Team Contents and My Contents areas, as we learned in the previous video. Cognos Analytics has a new very powerful tool, which never existed before. It is called Data Module. It provides data modeling capabilities, and it is made simple so that non-IT users like data analysts, data scientists, accountants, business users can easily learn it and use it. We can see it as a light version of Framework Manager, but it does not replace Framework Manager completely. So while in the old world you had Framework Manager for data modeling, in Cognos Analytics you now have two tools, one called Data Module and the other one called Framework Manager. Now, coming to Cognos Workspace. Cognos Workspace functionalities are all available in the new dashboarding feature. Plus, Dashboard brings in a lot more new functionalities as well. Data modules and dashboards together make this new tool very intuitive and very user-friendly. And it also puts a lot of power in the hands of non-IT users. As most of the companies are now moving towards self-service, and most of the users are also very IT savvy, it makes Cognos Analytics just the right tool of choice. It drastically reduces the time to market as well as costs to produce data analysis and dashboards. Report Studio and Workspace Advanced. These two tools are now replaced by the report functionality in Cognos Analytics. This report tool is more suitable for professional report authors and requires more training and practice than dashboards. Let's do a quick comparison of dashboards and reports. Dashboards are the new offering in Cognos Analytics, which can be built quickly and requires less training. Dashboards are very powerful for business users to build interactive presentations and can also be used for data analysis. This way, it is a great tool to encourage self-service in the organization and achieve better returns over investment. Dashboard is available with the standard license in cloud, which is cheaper than premium license required for report authoring. Having said that, reports have always been the offering in all the Cognos versions. And reports offer a lot of functionalities like repeaters, powerful expression building, changing the attributes on the fly based on filter selection, etc. Reports are definitely the tool of choice when you want to invest time in building pixel-perfect layout that will be built once and used many times, for example, to roll out to a big number of users. They are also great for PDF exports, and hence they are used for external reporting requirements. To build reports, more training is required, and I would recommend watching my other video course called Going Beyond Dashboard to learn this tool. Overall, we can see that Cognos Analytics is now one package with various functionalities and capabilities come together. Administrators can control which users can get access to which tools. Depending on the licensing model, as well as the willingness of users, you can open up various functionalities. As a basic access, you can provide the capability to execute reports and dashboards to all the users. Whereas as next level, you can allow making changes to the existing reports and dashboards, but save them only as the private copies. To more capable users, you can allow creating new data modules, uploading data, as well as creating new dashboards from scratch. And finally, you can allow advanced report authoring, for which I would recommend subscribing to my Going Beyond Dashboard course. So I guess you are now ready to dive right into the creation of the dashboards. In our next video, you will learn how to create your first dashboard called Hello World Dashboard. Create Hello World Dashboard. In this video, you will create your first dashboard. To begin, please launch Cognos Analytics in Cloud. Now click on this plus icon on the left bottom corner and select the dashboard option. You will be presented with a selection of layouts, also known as templates. A layout helps with organizing objects on the canvas. Each layout has predefined sections, and we can place objects within those sections. Select this layout, which has two sections. We will use the upper section to place a title text, and the lower bigger section for some content. Click on OK. Now notice that the whole interface is transformed into the dashboard editor tool. The left-hand side icons have changed, and some new icons have appeared on the top right corner as well. In this dashboard editor tool, now I want you to click on the last icon on the left hand side, which will open up this widget panel. This panel has some basic widgets like texts, images, and shapes. Click on the text widget, hold the mouse button down, and then drag it on this upper section of the layout. Notice that when you are dragging, this sign appears, which reads as drag here to maximize. Place the widget in this space, and notice that it expands to fill the complete section. If you are not able to do it right in the first time, that is okay. You can still move the widget from anywhere else on the canvas and try to do it one more time and drop it in the space. Now click on the widget and type Hello World. Also notice that a menu appears for this text. On this menu, you can change the fonts, colors, alignment, and style for this text. Please change the color to blue. And notice that the font size says auto. Let it be, don't change it, and we will come to it. Next thing I want you to do is drag this media widget and place it in the bigger section. Now paste the URL for a media that I have supplied along with this course. Paste it here like this, and then click anywhere on the canvas. We are almost done. Let's preview this dashboard by clicking on this full screen icon. Notice that in the full screen, text as well as media have automatically resized. This is because when we set the size or font to automatic, the widgets will expand or shrink relative to the layout. Press the escape button on your keyboard to close this full screen preview. The next thing I would like you to do is click on this properties icon from the top right. This opens the dashboard properties panel. Here, notice that layout positioning is set to relative. This property makes our dashboard grow or shrink automatically relative to the screen size. That means you can access this dashboard on bigger monitors, small laptop screens, iPads, and even on iPhone. And the whole layout will fit into one screen by resizing all the contents. If you would like a different behavior, you can change it to absolute, in which case the widgets will not shrink on the smaller devices, and instead scroll bars will appear, so you can scroll from left to right or top to bottom. We are going to keep this as relative, and now we go further down in the properties panel. As we are not yet planning to add more tabs, let's remove this tab by switching off the Show Tabs option. And from the Color and Theme section, change the visual theme to dark. We are done. Let's view it one more time in full screen and confirm that everything is looking okay and the movie is playing fine. Let's save this dashboard as Hello World in My Content area by clicking on the Save icon. And within My Contents area, look for the folder which we created in the previous video. This folder is called Section 2 Achievements. Save the dashboard here. Once saved, let's close this dashboard editor. And we will do that by clicking on this Close button from the navigator of the application bar. So we are back on our familiar Welcome Portal interface. Click on My Contents area and go to the Section 2 Achievements folder. Here we can find the dashboard we just created. Let's click on its name to open it. This dashboard has now opened in the viewer mode. That is why we don't see those dashboard editor icons on the left. In order to switch from viewing to editing, you can click on this pencil icon. However, I want you to try something new. So this time, click on this properties icon and notice that you get a different option. As you are in the viewer mode, this properties button is giving you option to set this dashboard as homepage. Click on this option, and now this dashboard is set as your homepage. That means each time you will launch Cognos Analytics, instead of seeing the old welcome page, you will now see this dashboard as your homepage. Congratulations! You have created your first dashboard. You have placed some widgets on it, and now you have set it as homepage. Think of the possibilities. You can build a custom homepage for your organization. You can display some dynamic contents like newsfeed on it, and then roll it out to a wider audience. Once rolled out, you can centrally manage the contents of this homepage, and you can keep posting new updates. I hope that you enjoyed this section, and I'm looking forward to seeing you in the next section called It's All About Data. Section 3. It's all about data. In this section, we will dive deeper in how to get the right data. Bring in data for analysis. In previous video, we have put a text box and a media on the dashboard. However, in order to build a meaningful dashboard or to perform data analysis, our main ingredient is data. In order to bring data in Cognos Analytics, we have two options. First option is we can make Cognos connect to one or more systems in the organization or in the cloud so that it can read the databases and fetch the data. Second option is we can upload data in Cognos using files. In this video, we will look at both the options. In order to connect to the databases already existing in the organization, we need to use data server connections. You need to first click on this manage icon button on the left bottom corner and then open the data server connections panel. Now click on this plus icon to create a new data server connection. We can see that Cognos can connect to a variety of databases, including some big data databases like Cloudera and Hive, and also the relational databases like SQL Server and Oracle. The administrators can add more options here by setting up the JDBC libraries at the backend. We can choose the kind of database that we would like to connect to and then click on it. This opens the connection details page. Here we can put the JDBC connection details for the database that we would like to connect to, and then put the username and password for the database. Once done, we can test this connection and then save it. If you are a non-IT user, I would suggest that you speak to the Cognos administrator and they can set up the connections to databases in your organization or in your IBM cloud space. For this video course, we will not be using any LiveDB connection. Instead, we will use the new powerful feature that did not exist in the older Cognos versions. Yes, this feature is uploading your own data. For that, let's close this data server connections panel and see how to upload files in Cognos Analytics. There are more than one ways to upload the files in Cognos Analytics. The first option is we go to My Contents area and then click on this plus icon and then select the Upload Files option. When you click on it, you will get this pop-up where you can choose the file that you want to upload. The second option is we can click on this plus icon on the left bottom corner and then choose the Upload Files option. I need you to do this with me. Please select the branch hierarchy.csv file that I have provided with this course and upload using this option. We can see that Cognos has analyzed the file and now it is displaying a message that the file has been uploaded successfully. Now click on My Contents and notice that this file has been uploaded and saved in My Content. So every time we use that option from the bottom, the files are going to be saved in My Content area. So what if we wanted to save our files in a specific folder? For that, let's first create a folder in My Contents panel and we call it as Section 3 Achievements. Once the folder is created, click on the folder name, and once you are inside the folder, then click on the plus icon and upload the rest of the files. We can now see that Cognos is reading those 4 files and all of them are successfully uploaded. We can go back to My Contents and confirm that these files are visible in Section 3 Achievements folder. This way you can first navigate to a folder and then upload the files so that the files get saved in that specific folder. We will also move the branch hierarchy file, which got saved in My Content, into the Section 3 Achievements folder by right-clicking and choosing the Move option. So this way we have now uploaded all the 5 files in Section 3 Achievements folder. In real life, once you upload a file, you can get new versions of the file. And there are 2 possibilities. You can get a new version which will totally replace the previous file, or you can get some new records which you would like to append to the previous file. In order to do that, all you have to do is click on this context menu and then choose either the replace file option or append file option as per your requirement. Well done! You have learned how to create connection to organizational databases, as well as you have successfully uploaded the 5 sample data files that I provided with this course. I look forward to see you in our next video, which is called Create Your First Data Module. Create your first data module. Data module is the data modeling interface over the web. It is a light yet powerful tool. While it does not replace a framework manager tool, I'm pretty sure that it is a tool sufficient for all the non-IT users, like business users, data analysts, and business analysts, to model their data and use it for dashboarding. In this video, I would like to introduce you to the data module interface. By the end of this video, you will be comfortable with this interface, as well as you will have built your first data module. So let's go back to Cognos Analytics and click on the plus icon on the left bottom corner. And this time we will select Data Module to start a new data module. The first question Cognos asks us is to select the sources for data. If we were going to use a connection to database, then we would have used this Data Servers and Schema option. This is where we can use the data server connections which we spoke about in the previous video. Another option we have here is uploading new files by clicking on the upload button and then selecting the files. In our case, we already have the files uploaded, so we are going to cancel this and go to My Contents, open Section 3 Achievements, and then pick one or more files from here. To start with, I'm going to select only the branch costs data.csv file. So if you can please click on this file and then scroll down, click on OK. We are now in the data module editor mode, and we can see that the branch costs data.csv file is now available here. Cognos has read this file and then converted each column of the file into appropriate data items. Let's look at them one by one. The first item here is called row ID. The reason it's in different color is because it's an auto-generated column. This column does not exist in the file. However, Cognos has automatically created that for us. The second data item here called branch represents the first column in our file, whereas the remaining items are the subsequent columns in our file. Cognos has already identified branch as an identifier, whereas the other 4 columns as measures. If you click on the table name here, we can see the data on right hand side. Here we can browse the data, as well as we can decide the sort order. Now let's click on this overflow icon for the branch attribute. And I need you to click on the properties option at the bottom. Here we notice that Cognos has already identified this data item as an identifier. Any column in our file can have 3 types of usage: identifier, measure, and attribute. Identifier and attributes are the non-numeric columns, whereas measures are the numeric columns. In the properties, we can also change the name of this data item. For example, instead of branch, we can call it branch IDs. Now let's click on the next data item here called month. Here we can see that Cognos got confused because of the values stored in this column. Here the values are supposed to represent the months in YYYY format. For example, 2019-01 is the 2019 January row. However, looking at the values as numbers, Cognos has treated this column as a measure, and hence the aggregation property is going to be total. Imagine that you drag month on the grid and then Cognos sums up all of these values. That will not make sense at all. We would like to use this column as an attribute or identifier as well and use it for categorizing the data. So let's change the usage from measure to identifier and also change the label to month key. Now we go to the next column called infrastructure costs. This column actually represents the costs for each of these branch in each of these months spent over infrastructure. So it's actually a measure, and we are not going to make any change here. By the aggregate property being total, it means that if I select a month January and I want Cognos to aggregate the values for all the branches, essentially it's going to total up the infrastructure costs for all the branches for the month of January, which would be the right behavior. So we will not make any change to the aggregate property. And same is the case with employee costs as well as technology costs. So we are going to leave those two as the measure and aggregate property to total for them as well. So here are some terminologies which I would like you to be familiar with. Branch cost data.csv here is our data source, whereas each item underneath are going to be our data items. The data items can be classified as measures, attributes, and identifiers. In this case, branch IDs and month keys are set to identifiers. Now notice that branch ID has got this little expand icon next to it. And when you click on it, Cognos is actually going to read the whole column and then present you with the list of the unique items from that column. So B0001 to B008 are the unique branch IDs which are present in this whole file. Each of these values are called members. So why is the month key not showing that expand arrow? Remember, month key was first identified as a measure by Cognos automatically, and then later we changed it to identifier. In this case, if you wanted to see the unique members within the month key identifier data item, then we need to go to its properties and then enable the members property. And now we can see that month key also has the expand option, and when you click on it, you can see all of the unique month keys in the whole file. Now this is truly a unique feature in Cognos. You often have requirement to select certain members of an attribute or a data item. And we will see this in action when we actually build a dashboard. But being able to see the members and then being able to select certain members and use them on dashboard is extremely powerful feature of Cognos. Let's carry on our journey in this interface. So I'm going to close this property panel and now focus on this preview panel. In this preview space, the first option is grid, which allows us to preview the data in this file or in the source of data. The next option is relationships. When we pull multiple sources in our module, we will be able to set the relationships between those sources using this visual interface. And custom tables is the space where we will be creating our own new tables, which we will see in the next section. The next thing I would like you to do is bring in the other files as the sources here. For that, we'll click on the plus icon and then click on Add New Sources. Go back to My Content Section 3 Achievements folder and select all of the other files by holding the Shift key down. Click on OK, and we can see that all of our files are now available here. If we go to Relationships tab, we can see that all of these sources are currently disconnected, and we will learn how to create the relationships between them in the next section. To make things tidy, let's start renaming each of these data sources. For that, click on this overflow icon and open properties for the table or the data source and remove the .csv from the label. Do the same thing for the rest of the files. Now notice that if you click on this new data module name, you will not be able to change its label because this label is nothing else but the name of the data module. So let's save this data module in My Content under Section 3 Achievements folder. And let's call it My First Data Module. So now we see that this My First Data Module is the name which is shown here on the tree as well. The second icon here in the data module panel is called Navigation Path, and we will learn about it in the data modeling section. For now, I need you to click on the third icon here, which is called Validate. When you click on it, you get a message that there are no validation issues, and the validation is set to automatic. Validation identifies various issues with the data module. For example, if there is a table or column which doesn't exist anymore at the source, or if we have defined any calculation or filter and their expressions are invalid. Those kind of issues would automatically be identified and presented here if the validation is set to automatic. Sometimes if the data module is really large and data is heavy, you may want to turn the automatic validation off by switching this option off. In that case, you can click on Validate as and when required. So in this video, we learned how to create a new data module by clicking on the plus icon and then how to import various data from the files that we uploaded. We also familiarized with the data module interface and looked at various options and buttons. We are going to refine this data module in our next section, where we will also learn about data modeling. Section 4. Data Modeling. In this section, we will learn how to fuse data together within the data module. We will learn about creating joins, navigation paths, calculation, and more. Defining relationships. In last section, we created this first data module. So let's open that data module. And start defining the relationships. If we click on this Relationships tab, currently we can see that all the tables are disconnected. That means Cognos doesn't know that if you want to fetch data from 2 or more tables, how to join them together. In the first section of this course, I explained that 2 of these 5 files are the data files, and those are branch cost data and client advisor performance data. For modeling, we are going to use the star schema concept here. Star schema is the simplest and most commonly used data modeling technique. In this technique, we identify the table which has got data, for example, branch cost, and then we identify the other dimensions or hierarchies which allow us to categorize the data. For example, branch hierarchy. So we will hold the control key on our keyboard and select branch hierarchy. With both these tables highlighted, you can right click and then open the relationship dialog. On this screen, we can create relationship between the branch cost data and branch hierarchy table. The common attribute or column between these two tables is the branch ID. So we will select branch on left hand side. And here Cognos has presented us with the values in that column. And we will select the branch ID on right hand side. And here as well, Cognos is showing us the values. And we can see that these values match. So these columns can be joined. Now, please click on the Match Selected Columns button. Click on the refresh button to see the effect. Great. We can see that we are getting data back. That means Cognos is able to perform the join between these two tables, and the values are good for joining. Now scroll down and you will see this option where you can change the join types. Currently it says the join is inner join, one-to-many, and no filtering. Let's click on it and understand them in detail. The first option is called relationship type. When you click on this information bar, you can see what each of the join type means. Currently we have selected inner join. That means we will only get those rows from one table for which we have a matching row in the other table based on the branch ID. Sometimes we may want to see categories from the hierarchy or dimension table, irrespective of whether there is data in the fact table or not. In that case, we may choose left outer or right outer join. Or in some cases, we may need full outer join. However, for now, we are okay to keep the inner join. Let's go to the next section. Here, we can see that 1-to-1 means Cognos would expect both the tables to have exactly one matching row. Whereas 1-to-many or many-to-one would mean that one table could have one row, whereas other could have many rows for the same joining key. In our case, we are expecting branch ID to be unique in the branch hierarchy table. That means for each branch ID, there will be only one row in the branch hierarchy table. However, there will be many rows in the cost data because we have 2 years of cost data in this table. So we need to change this. And rather than it being 1-to-many, it should be many-to-one. So let's change this to many-to-one. And now we can see that Cognos is showing cost data having the many side and the branch hierarchy having the one side. Cardinality is particularly important when you have more than one fact tables, and we will come to it later in this course. I would encourage you to read about the optimization as well. For this video course, we are not going to change any of the optimization options. Let's click on OK. And now we can see in this relationships tab that branch hierarchy and branch cost data tables are joined with 1-to-many relationship. Now, we are going to do the same thing with another fact table, which is the client advisor performance data. So hold the control key down on your keyboard, select both the tables, right click on any one of them and open the relationships table. Again, select the branch column from CA performance data table and branch ID from the branch hierarchy table, and click on match selected columns and refresh the data. Perfect. Cognos is able to fetch the data from both the tables together and join them using the branch and branch ID columns. Again, the relationship is the other way around. So let's change it by opening this dialog and changing the cardinality to many-to-one. Refresh the data one more time and then click on OK. Typically, star schema has one fact table surrounded by multiple dimensions. However, in our current schema, we have two fact tables. And that is why defining the 1-to-many cardinality in the relationships is extremely important. This will allow Cognos to form the correct relationship or SQL and fetch proper data. We will now carry on joining the performance data with product list and employee list. Our client advisor performance data has got more information. It is the performance data of employees along with the products and the branches. So we will click on CA performance data, hold the control key down and click on product list. Right click and click on relationships. This time we will join the product column from CA performance data with the product column on the products list. Match selected columns, refresh the data, and now correct the cardinality to make sure that the fact table shows many and product list dimension shows 1 for the cardinality. Click on OK. And now lastly we will select employee list and CA performance data and define relationship between them. Interestingly, because I selected employee list first, it is showing on the left hand side. So the cardinality is 1-to-many, which is correct. We will choose employee ID and employee column from here, match the columns, refresh data, and yes, Cognos is able to join the tables. So we click on OK and we are done. We have defined all the relationships in this data module. With the branch cost data, we will be able to use the branch hierarchy table. Whereas with CA performance data, we will be able to use employee list, product list, and branch hierarchy tables. I would like to highlight one more thing here. If you open CA performance data table, notice that it has got 4 identifiers or attributes called employee, branch, month, and product. And it has got 3 measures called invested assets, fees, and commissions. If you open the relationships, you will notice that it is not going to show us any of those measures which were invested assets, fees, and commissions. So defining relationship between two tables is only possible for identifiers and attributes. Hence, if you are not able to see any column, then make sure that the usage of that column is set to identifier or attribute. Now imagine that you want to build a table or a grid where you are going to show some data from the client advisor performance table and some data from the branch costs. Right now, they are both related via the branch hierarchy. That means Cognos will be able to appropriately map the branch costs to the branch performance data. However, there is one more common field between these two tables, and that is the reporting month. Yes, both of these tables have got data for multiple months of 2019 and 2020. And we would want to make sure that each month's data is appropriately joined. We will resolve this problem in our next video called Bridge Table and Hiding Data Items. Bridge Table and Hiding Data Items. In our previous video, we created this data model, which has got two fact tables, CA performance data and branch cost data. Currently, CA performance data has got relationship with 3 dimensions: employee list, product list, and branch hierarchy. Whereas branch cost data has got relationship with 1 dimension called branch hierarchy. So branch hierarchy is a common dimension between these 2 fact tables. However, one very important attribute or key which is common between these 2 tables is the month. What will happen if we try to create the relationship between these 2 tables? What will be the cardinality between these tables? For each month, we know that we are going to have many rows in the branch cost data because there are several branches. And we are also going to have many rows on the CA performance data. That means based on the month key, there will be many-to-many relationship between these 2 tables. One way to solve this problem will be to select 2 keys from each side, and these keys will be branch and month key. So if I select branch and month key from right hand side and branch and month key from left hand side, then I know that I'm always going to have only 1 row on right hand side for branch and month key, and I'm going to have multiple rows on left hand side from the CA performance data. But that will make Cognos think that branch cost data is a dimension table, which is not true. So it will not only complicate our data model, but also lead to inaccurate data. We are going to solve this problem using something called bridge tables. So let's understand what bridge table is. When 2 fact tables have common dimensions between them, they are called conformed dimensions. In our case, branch hierarchy is a conformed dimension. When 2 fact tables have common dimensions, but there is no dimension table, then joining fact tables together will result into many-to-many join. In our case, this common dimension is the month, and we currently don't have any table for months. If we try to join both the fact tables together, then we know that it is going to result in many-to-many join. This can lead to inaccurate results, as well as poor performance. For example, if you try to pull only cost data, Cognos may join to the CA performance table, which will lead to poor performance. As well as sometimes it can cause double counting and hence inaccurate results. Bridge table converts the many-to-many relationship to 2 one-to-many relationships. So we are going to close this relationships dialog and here introduce a bridge table. For that, I need you to click on this plus icon and then select add new sources. Click on the upload option and this time select the CSV file which I have given along with this course called monthslist.csv. The monthslist.csv has now been added to our data model. This table has got all the month keys and it is going to act as month dimension in our data model. For the month key, I have also put one more column here, which is a proper date format. For example, 2019-01 is presented in a date format as 1st January 2019. We will use this month key column for joining to both the fact tables. Before we do that, let's rename this table by opening the properties pane and rename it to months. Now we go to relationships tab and select months with branch cost data table and create relationship between them. The joining key here is month key. Click on match selected columns and refresh data. We can see that Cognos is able to join them together and bring some data back. We validate that the cardinality is correct. It is 1 on the dimension side and many on the fact side. So we click on OK and we will do the same thing between month and CA performance data. We again select month and month key, match selected columns and refresh data. Cognos is able to join them, fetch the data. We have validated the cardinality as 1 to many. So we'll click on OK to close this. Let's position this month table here so we can now see that there are 2 conformed dimensions between these fact tables. And these 2 common dimensions or conformed dimensions are branch hierarchy and months. And the relationships between dimensions and fact are always 1 to many. This will allow Cognos to create proper join paths and bring in accurate results on our dashboard. One important topic I would like to cover in this video is hiding the data items. At the time of creating these relationships, we found that there are common keys between each of these tables which are joined together. That means there is redundancy in the data items which would be available to us when creating the dashboards. For example, if I open branch hierarchy, I can find the branch ID here, but I can also find branch ID in the branch cost data, as well as I can find the branch ID in the CA performance data. While creating dashboard, if you use the branch data item from CA performance table, then it will work okay with the metrics from CA performance table. However, you will not be able to use the metrics from branch cost data because that can also lead to inaccurate results. The right thing to do would be to use the branch ID and branch related attributes from the branch hierarchy table. And hence, to avoid any mistake, we are going to hide the branch data item from both the fact tables. For that, we will click on this overflow icon and open the context menu and choose hide from users option. We can see that branch data item is now grayed out. That means when we try to use this data module in the dashboard, we will not see this branch data item, and hence we will always be using it from the right place. We will do the same thing for branch cost data. We'll hide the branch data item from here. We can do same thing for months because we want to use month only from the month table. So let's hide month key from branch cost data. And we will also hide the month from CA performance data. Finally, we will do similar with product and employees. As we always want to use product and employees from the dimensions, we are going to hide them from CA performance data. So we hide the employee data item and we will hide the product. Let's save this data module as a copy. For that, click on the small drop down next to the save button and choose the save as option. Go to my contents, we create a new folder called section 4 achievements and then save this data module. We save it as branch costs and performance module. Click on save. So we have resolved the many-to-many relationship issue in our data model, as well as we have learned how to hide certain data items. In our next video, we will learn about creating calculations. Calculations. In this video, we will learn how to create simple arithmetic and string calculations. Now we are almost done with our data modeling. We have got both the fact tables properly linked to the dimension tables, and we have resolved the many-to-many join issue as well. In this video, we will see how to create some simple calculations in the data module so that it is readily available in the dashboard for use. For that, I want you to first click on the months table and then click on the grid. Here we can see that this month table, which we uploaded in the previous video, has got the month key and the date columns. This will allow us to group the monthly cost data and the monthly performance data from both the fact tables and place them side by side, or compare them, or create calculations between them. However, we can also do a very simple calculation of taking the first 4 characters from the month key and then create a new column called year for that. That will allow us to group all the rows of 2019 together and sum up their costs and performance data to arrive at the yearly cost data and the yearly performance data. Let's see how we can do that at the data module level. For that, click on this context icon or overflow icon for the months table and then choose the new calculation option. This screen allows us to define a new calculation. Here we can give the calculation name. In this case, we are going to call it year, and we can write the expression in this place. Cognos allows us to use various functions, and you can see all these functions by clicking on this function icon. Here we can see that there are various operators like brackets, plus, minus, etc. that are supported by Cognos. We can see that there are statistical functions like aggregate, average, count, etc. And we can also see that there are some date functions like add days, add hours, add minutes, and many more. This way, Cognos provides a very rich set of functions that we can use when defining calculation. In this case, we are going to use a very simple function called substring. For that, I request you to click on this common functions and then open the R to Z range and look for the substring function. When you click on this function, you can find the information here. As you can see here, substring function returns a part of the string, starting at a position that we will specify in the second argument, and we can optionally specify how many letters we want. Let's try to use this. So we drag this function here in the expression space, and then we go to this data item icon and choose the data item that we want to use, which is month key, and drag it here. Put a comma. As we want to take the first 4 character, I will put 1. That means we want to extract the portion of the string starting from the first character and then place 4 in the second argument. We can preview how this will look by clicking on this preview icon. Now notice that we are only defining the year calculation here. In the old Cognos versions, Cognos used to only display the preview of the calculation which we are doing. However, in this new version, it also shows us a preview of those attributes or data items which are used in this calculation, which is really good because here we can validate that whenever my month key is 2019, 05, 09, etc., I am getting the corresponding first 4 letters which are 2019. Whereas if my month key is 2020, 06, then I'm getting the first 4 letters which are 2020. So we can actually see the input which is given to this function, and we can see the result which is presented in the new calculation called year. I will also walk you through the other options which we see in this create calculation screen. The first option called information, it opens the function information panel. So when I click on it, it again shows me the information about the substring function. The third icon here is for validation. So we can validate the calculation expression by clicking on it, and we get the result that expression is valid. We can use this comment button to comment out a part of the expression. Basically, by putting 2/, we can comment out any line in the expression. And this is very commonly used by the IT professionals. For example, here I can move the actual expression to next line, and I can put a comment here stating pull first 4 letters to form a year value. The comments are useful to remind us why we are doing certain calculation or what is being done in the calculation. The Prettify icon makes the expression readable. It is typically used when the expression is really long and complicated. And after you have done writing it and validating it, you can click on Prettify icon to make sure that it is properly indented so that it is easy to read. This button enables the high contrast mode. It is an accessibility feature and makes the expression editor easy on eyes. And finally, we can also make this expression easy to read by changing the font size. So if you need bigger fonts, you can just change the fonts here, and you can see that the expression editor is now showing the expression in font size 16. As we have done the preview and we are happy with the year calculation, we are going to click on OK and close this. And now we can see that the year data item has been added here. Now all of a sudden, we see a validation issue. So we can click on this and then click on the validation issue to see the detail. Here we get a warning rather than an error. And the warning is the first argument that we have supplied to substring function is not a string type. So let's double check by clicking on the month key and opening its properties. Here we see that the data type is integer. Now we are presented with two options. Either we can first convert month key to string, or we can use an arithmetic operation to take out the first 4 digits of this number. As I want to show you example of an arithmetic calculation, I'm going to use the second approach. So let's click on this year context button and click on edit calculation option. Instead of using substring, which is expecting month key to be a string, I'm now going to use an arithmetic operation. For that, drag month key again, and this time we are going to divide it by 100. Click on preview. We can see that 2019-02 is now presented as 2019.02. Now we will round it by using the round function. We can even search for the function by using this search box. Let's open the information panel and read about the round function. Round function accepts a numeric expression. So let's try to use the round function on this by dragging the function and then supplying month key divided by 100 as the first argument. And we don't want any decimal places, so we will put 0 as the second argument. And let's preview. So we can see that 2019-03 is considered as a number. It is divided by 100 and then rounded to 0 decimal places, which gives us the value of 2019. Now I want to highlight here that the warning which we received earlier was only a warning and not an error. That means Cognos was able to treat month key, which is an integer, as a string and take out the first 4 letters out of that. However, just for the learning purpose, I wanted to introduce an arithmetic calculation as well. So I'm using a different method here to convert our month key, which is a 6-digit identifier, to a 4-digit year value. As I'm happy with it, I'm going to click on OK. And now we can see that Cognos has validated our data module and it is reporting no issue. So we will close this validation and create one more calculation for learning. This time we are going to create calculation in our branch hierarchy table. So I want you to click on the branch hierarchy table. I'm closing the properties panel so we get more real estate. And here we see that we have branch IDs and branch names. Now on the dashboard, we are going to use region and then drill down to markets and then drill down to branch names. Branch IDs are the keys which are joining to our cost and CA performance data because both of those fact tables hold branch IDs. From presentation perspective, when you drill down from region to market and market to branch, I want to show the branch ID in bracket next to the branch name. So let's create a calculation for that. Again, we click on this context icon for branch hierarchy table and click on new calculation. And we are going to use another function to join the two strings, and that is called concatenation. So you can even just type and Cognos will suggest certain functions or keywords which are supported by the calculation expression. When I type con, it is showing that following operators, functions, and summary keywords are supported. And we want to use the function called concat. So you can use the up and down arrow key on the keyboard to choose the required function and then click enter. We see the information about concat function being presented here. We can read that this function returns a string which is a result of concatenating two strings. And the two strings that we want to concatenate here are branch name and branch ID. Let's preview. Now, I want to put a space between them, and I also want to put the brackets around the branch ID. In order to put a space and a bracket between them, we can use single quote, put a space and a starting bracket, put one more quote to close this string. So this is a constant which never changes, and we will put one more constant at the end, which is going to be a closing bracket in single quotes. And let's preview. Perfect. We can see that the branch name is now shown with the branch ID in the bracket, and we can call it as branch name display value. Click on OK. So this way, we have learned how to create calculations in data module, which will be very handy for us to use in the dashboard, which we will create in our next section. Before we move on to creating dashboard, I want to tell about just one more topic called navigation path in our next video. Navigation path. Navigation paths allow us to define how dashboard users will drill down and drill across in a guided fashion. Drill down and drill across allows changing the focus of the user's analysis by moving between the levels and between the dimensions of the information. In short, by defining the navigation paths, you can define a guided journey for the users. So let's create navigation path in our data module. A very good starting point of analysis for our users is going to be the branch hierarchy. They can start by looking at the cost and performance data at the region level. That means at the total of England, Wales, and Scotland. And then from there, they can drill down to markets and branches. An alternative way would be to look at the totals at region and then drill across to another dimension like product. Let's create the navigation path to allow this guided drill down and drill across. For that, we have to first open the properties of the data module. So click on the context menu and open properties and go to the navigation paths. We can see that currently there are no navigation paths defined in this data module. So let's click on the add navigation path option, which opens this dialog box. We want the navigation to start at the region level with region from branch hierarchy. So drag region, and from region, we want a guided drill down to market. So drag that and place it below region. And finally, drag the branch name display value. Remember, this is the value which not only shows the branch name, but also shows the branch ID next to it. So this way, we have defined a guided navigation, which is basically a drill down from region to market and markets to branches. And we can call it regions, markets, branches. Click on OK. And let's define another navigation path, which is going to take the user from regions to products by clicking on this button. And again, choose region as the starting point. And this time choose product from the product list. We can just call it regions and products and then click on OK. So we have now defined two navigation paths. Whenever we are in the data module, there is an option to see which data items are part of a navigation path. And there is an easy way to highlight it, which is by clicking on this icon called Identify Navigation Path Members. When you click on it, all those data items which are part of any navigation path are highlighted with an underlining. You can click on any of them and it will show the navigation path in the property. Let's click on Save to save this data module. And now I guess we are ready. We have got all the required tables in our data model. We have defined the relationships. We have defined the navigation path, and we have also created some calculations. So I look forward to seeing you in our next section called Building the Dashboard. Section 5. Building the dashboard. Summary page, crosstab and summary widget. In this video, we will create the summary page of the dashboard and learn about crosstab and summary widgets. So our data module is now ready. So we will make sure that it is saved properly by clicking on the Save button, and then we will close it from here. We are going to create a new dashboard where we will be using this data module to pull the cost and performance data. Before we do that, let's click on this My Contents area and go to My Content. Here we notice that the file which we uploaded in the previous section has been saved outside. So we can move it through section 4 achievements by clicking on this context button, choose the option to move, and then select this folder, section 4 achievements, and hit Move to button. And I want you to create a new folder now, section 5 achievements. Now, let's click on the plus icon at the bottom left corner and choose the dashboard option to create a new dashboard from scratch. I would like you to choose this template, which has got a bigger section and then some smaller sections on the top and on the left hand side. Click on OK. The first thing we will have to do is select a source for data. So we'll go to My Contents, section for Achievements folder, and choose the branch costs and performance module, which we just saved. Click on Add, and now we can see all of those tables and data items which we created in the previous section. I would like you to create a cross-tab or a grid here, which will show the region level cost and performance data. So open the branch hierarchy and drag regions. As soon as you drag a data item on the canvas, Cognos tries to pick a visualization which is suitable for that data item. But we can always change it by selecting this option called Change Visualization. So click on that and open all visualizations and choose Crosstab. Crosstab is a grid-like visualization. We can put one or more data items or dimensions on the rows and on the columns, and we can show the numbers in the intersection. In order to place data items on the rows or columns, you need to click on this icon on the top right corner to expand the visualization panel. So here we see that region has been placed on the rows. On the columns, we are first going to put some cost data. So if we expand the cost data, so if you drag infrastructure cost and put it in values, you will now see that infrastructure costs are being shown. And on the rows, there are 3 regions. So all the rows for England are summed together to present this infrastructure cost of 643,000. We can add other costs as well, like employee cost and technology cost in the values section. So basically, Crosstab allows as many numerical values or metrics that we would like to display. So can you guess which month or year's data these are? Well, currently we don't have any filter for any month or year. That means it is summing up all the values from the file. And the file has got values for 2019 months and 2020 months. In order to restrict the data to a particular year or group the data by years, we need to drag the year data item. Now, when we expand the month table, we notice that year is shown as a metric rather than an identifier. So we need to make correction to our data module. We can easily do that by opening our data module. So we go back to My Contents, section for Achievements, and open the data module, expand months, click on year, open its properties, and change its usage from measure to identifier, and set its members to automatic. Let's save the data module by clicking on the Save button. Let's go back to our dashboard, and we minimize this crosstab. In order for the changes to reflect, we need to relink this dashboard to our data module. But before doing that, let's save it in our new folder called Section 5 Achievements, and we will name it as Branch Performance Dashboard. To relink, we need to go back up and then choose this option to relink the data module. Choose the data module, which is essentially the same data module from Section 4 Achievements, and click on Use. So Cognos has now refreshed the definition for data module, and we can see that year is now being shown here as an identifier. Let's try to expand this crosstab and choose year to be on the columns. We can see that 2019 now appears here, and if we scroll to right, we see 2020 as well. So we are happy with the crosstab. We can minimize it, and let's move it to the middle of this section so that it will expand to fit the whole section. Let's see it in full screen mode. And here we can see the 2019 and 2020 annual costs, and the summary represents the summation of both. Press Escape to come out of the full screen mode. Now on this crosstab, I don't want to show the summaries. So click on the crosstab and click on the plus icon on top. And that gives us some options that we can use for this crosstab. There is this option to hide summaries. So click on that, and we can see that the summaries are now hidden. We can also add a title to this crosstab by clicking on this Edit the Title option, and we can call it Annual Costs by Regions. Now, typically crosstabs provide a lot of numbers. So the key information we would like to place on the top and on the left-hand side. So we will expand the data items and open CA performance data. And we are going to drag invested assets, fees, and commissions on the top as individual singletons or summary widgets. I want you to drag the invested assets measure on the top in one of the section and drop it in the middle. So we can see that Cognos has this time chosen a different visualization. Because it's a numerical data, Cognos has chosen something called summary widget. Summary widgets are great for highlighting the key performance indicators. If you expand this widget, you can see that it's a summary widget, and essentially it only accepts one numerical measure. We will repeat this process for fees and commission. As we are not limiting our dashboard currently by any filter, all of these numbers are the totals from the CA performance data. Now I would like to limit this page only to 2019 data. For that, let's open months. Let's drag year to the filter section for this tab. When we drag it, we get the option to either choose 2019 or 20 or both. In this case, we are going to choose 2019 because it's a year which is complete. Notice that as soon as we put a filter, all of these visualizations show an icon on the top right corner. And when you click on that icon, you can see that the widget is filtered for year 2019. Now, on the left hand side, I want to show two other key performance indicator. The first one is going to be total earnings. For that, I'm going to add up fees and commissions. And the second one is going to be total cost. And for that, I'm going to add up infrastructure, employee, and technology costs. So let's learn about creating some calculations in the dashboard tool. In our previous section, we learned that we can create certain calculations in data module. However, if a data module is already created or owned by someone else, we can still create calculations specific to this dashboard in the dashboard tool. So if we expand branch cost data and then click on this context icon and choose new calculation, we can drag infrastructure cost plus employee cost plus technology cost here and call it total costs and click on OK. So a new calculation has been created, which is not in the data module, but it is available in this dashboard, which we can use on this tab as well as on any other tab that we will create within this dashboard. So let's drag the total cost calculation and place it on the left hand side. And we will create total earnings by adding up fees and commission. So we repeat the process for CA performance data table, click on calculation and add up fees and commissions and call it total earnings and drag it on the canvas on the left hand side. We can see that both of these widgets are showing the filter, and when we click on them, we can see that they are already filtered for the year 2019. Let's save this dashboard, and we change the mode to presentation mode by turning off the edit option. So whenever any user is going to access this dashboard, this is how it will look. Let's open in full screen. In one glance, they will be able to see the 2019 invested assets, fees and commission. They will also be able to compare the total earnings and total costs, and they can see the cost split by regions. If the user wanted to change this view from 2019 to 2020, they can easily do that by clicking on this year option and then change it to 2020, turn off 2019 and click on OK. And all of the figures are now changed to 2020. If you are presenting this dashboard, you can also hide the filter section by clicking on the small tick. And here we see a small number 1 because it indicates that there is one filter being applied to this tab. Let's click on Escape to minimize and go back to the edit mode by clicking on the pencil button. The cross tab is not filling up the whole space available to it. So we will select this widget, open the properties pane, expand the chart options, and here we can increase the row height and the column width. That looks better. So we are going to save this dashboard. And in the next video, we will see navigation path and widget connections for this tab. Navigation path and widget connections. So this is our dashboard, and I have again chosen 2019. So if you have 2020, you would be seeing different numbers. Please change it to 2019 and click on OK. And then your numbers on the dashboard should match with my current screen. In order to get a little bit more real estate, I'm going to hide the filters panel. And here I want to talk about navigation paths. So I would like you to click on England. Now, what if we wanted to drill into this region using the drill paths that we created in the previous section? For that, you click on England and then choose this navigate option, and you are presented with two navigation paths. One is called region market branches and the other one is called region and product. So these are the two navigation paths that we created at data module level. If you click on region market branches and then choose market, we can see that the rows are now replaced to markets. Now this is an end user functionality. That means the end user need not be in the edit mode. They can even be in the presentation mode, and they will still be able to do this drill up, drill down, and drill across using the navigation paths. And now we can drill from any market to see the branches within those markets. So I'm going to right click on Greater London and then choose the option to drill down, which would take us to City of London, which is the branch within that market, with the branch ID being displayed in the bracket, because that is how we configured it in the data module. Now at any point, user can go back by right clicking and choosing the back option. And then back again will bring you to the regions grid. So this way we can see that the navigation paths that are defined in the data module are available in dashboard for the user to drill down as well as to drill across without changing the layout or without having to edit the dashboard. That's how you provide a guided journey. Now, you may have noticed that these numbers on the top and left-hand side have been changing whenever I click on any of these cells. For example, if I click on England, we can see that the top numbers and the left-hand side earning and cost numbers have all been changing because these are now being filtered for England. And we can validate it by clicking on the filter icon for any of them. And we can see that region equals England is a filter which is added to all of them. If I click on England again, then the filter will be removed and the numbers will reset to 2019 only. Let me do it one more time in the full screen mode. This time I'm going to choose Scotland because the numbers are considerably low for Scotland. And if you pay attention to invested assets, you will notice immediately that it went down. And not only that, but all of the other summary widgets are now showing much smaller number because they're all being filtered for Scotland. So this interactivity between the widgets could be quite useful, but at the same time, they could be confusing if the user is not aware of it. As the dashboard designer, I do want to provide the navigation functionality as in drill up, drill down, and drill across functionality within this cross tab. But I don't want that every time the user is drilling up or down, these numbers would change. So I would like to break the connection between this widget, which is a cross tab widget, and all of the other summary widgets. So let's learn how to do that. Click on Escape to come back and go back to the edit mode. And now click on this widget connections icon. Now notice that all of the widgets are now grayed out and we can see number 1 superimposed on all of them. It means that all of them are connected with one widget connection. Whereas I want to break cross tab out of it. So click on the cross tab and then choose the first option here to break all links. And we can see that this is now changed to number 2. So in short, all of the summary widgets are now connected together with one widget connection, whereas cross tab is separated out as a second widget connection. Click on the icon again to come out of the widget connection mode. And now let's click on England and we can see that the numbers have not changed. Or if I click on Scotland, we can see that these numbers are not changing. So let's rename this tab and call it Bank-Wide Annual Performance. So in this video, we learned about how to use navigation path, and we also learned about the widget connections and how to change or break the widget connections. In our next video, we will create branch page and we will learn about a property called calculation after aggregation. Branch page. In this video, we will learn about a property called calculation after aggregation. So we have created a tab which is going to show the bank-wide annual performance. And we are going to now create a new tab where we will see the branch level data. while this grid gives us the ability to drill down all the way down to branch, it doesn't give us comparison between all the branches across all the three regions. For example, if I right click on Scotland and then navigate to branches, is only going to show me the two branches of Scotland, and I cannot compare them to the branches of England and Wales. So this page is great for the bank-wide performance, but we are going to create one more page where we will compare all the branches across multiple regions. Because there is a lot that we can use from this page, we can duplicate the tab by clicking on the second option, and now we will rename it to branch level performance. Here I need more real estate for the cross tab, so I'm going to get rid of the widgets. You can hold Shift key down to choose multiple widgets and then click on the plus icon for any of them and choose the delete option. So that way you can delete multiple widgets, and we can change the layout of this tab by clicking on the third icon called change template, and we will use the plain template without any sections and click on OK. And we are going to resize it so that it takes the whole space. Now let's click on this expand icon, and instead of regions, we are going to drag the branch name display value on the row and remove the region. Now for the branch comparison, I want to use different calculation. One of the important parameter for comparing performance of multiple branches is going to be how much earning they are making with respect to the invested assets. So we are going to create a new calculation in the CA performance data table. So click on the overflow icon and open new calculation and drag total earnings divided by invested assets. We are going to call it as earnings to assets ratio and then click on OK. In this cross tab, we don't want to show the breakdown of costs, so let's remove them. And instead, we are going to put this earnings to asset ratio calculation, which we just created, in the values. In order to make sure that the values I'm getting is correct, I'm also going to drag the two components, which are the numerator and denominator of this calculation. So total earnings and invested assets, so that I can validate that the ratio is correct. Let's minimize and then view this dashboard in full screen. So essentially what we are trying to do here is all the branches which are located in different regions of the country can have different invested assets, because some of them have stronger opportunity because of their location and some of them have less opportunities. So instead of just comparing their earnings, we are going to compare their earnings to invested asset ratio. Now, typically our invested assets are large numbers. So they are in billions, whereas our earnings are in millions. So my earning to invested asset ratio should be really small. But here we are seeing that we are getting large values in the range of 19 to 20, which is clearly not right if I divide 8 million by 1 billion. So what is going on here? In order to explain the problem, I would like to revise with you some simple arithmetic fundamentals. So let's look at the slide. On left hand side, I'm doing the addition, and on right hand side, I'm doing division. If you add up 2 and 10, you get 12. And if you add up 5 and 25, you get 30. Now, if you were to aggregate, as in sum up the data for these two rows, you have two ways of doing the aggregation. You can either sum up 2 and 5, which gives you 7, and then the second argument, which is 10 and 25, which gives you 35. And after summing up those raw numbers, you can then perform the calculation, which is 7 plus 35, and it will give you 42. The other way would be you perform the calculation first, so you get 12 and 30 as the result of the calculation, and then you sum up these two results and you get 42. So whether you perform calculation before the aggregation or you perform the calculation after the aggregation will give you same result. However, on right hand side, we are looking at division. If you divide 2 by 10, you get 0.2, and if you divide 5 by 25, you again get 0.2. However, if you sum up the two numerators, you get 7, and sum up two denominators, you get 35. Here, after summing up the numerator and denominator, when you do the division, you get the result as 0.2. However, if we tried to do the division first and then sum up the result of two divisions, we would have got 0.4, which would be wrong result. So, calculation before aggregation and calculation after the aggregation would give you different results. So we go back to our Cognos screen now, and here we are seeing the exact same issue. Our earnings to asset ratio is wrong because Cognos is currently performing the ratio at the lowest level and then summing up those results. So let's look at one important property that we need to change here. Go back to the edit mode. Let's open our earnings to asset ratio calculation and open its properties. Here we have one property called calculate after aggregation. That's exactly what we are after. So we need to turn on this option and then click on close. And now we see that the numbers have changed in the range of 0.01, which is correct. Now, when we have got the correct numbers for earnings to asset ratio, we see that they are all showing in the same range, 0.01, which makes it impossible to compare which branch is having better ratio than the others. So we are going to change this to percentage by selecting this option of format data, and we will change the format type to percentage, and we want to see about 2 decimal places. Click on OK. Let me sort it in the descending order. For that, we will right click on earning to asset ratio, choose top or bottom option, increase the number of results to 100, and then do bottom count. And we can see that Sussex branch has got the lowest earnings to asset ratio of 0.64. So we can see that clearly the calculation after aggregation is a very important property, especially when it comes to ratios or divisions. There is one more ratio which could be important for us to compare, and that would be total income to total costs. Now our total income or total earnings are in this table, and our total costs are in the branch cost data. So in order to create the calculation between these two, we will have to define it at the data module level by clicking on the context icon at the top and selecting the option of create calculation, and drag total earnings from the CA performance table, divide by branch cost data total costs. Notice that when we are dragging the data items, they also have the name of the table before them because it's a calculation defined over 2 different tables. And we are going to call it earnings to cost ratio, and click on OK. I'm going to collapse all the tables, and we are going to drag this earnings to cost ratio and put it next to earnings to asset ratio. Let's double check that the property of this new calculation is already set to calculate after aggregation. So we are good. We are going to again view this dashboard in full screen. We will quickly do some formatting. So I'll click on escape to go back to the edit mode. We don't need to see earnings and invested asset anymore. So we will open this cross tab and remove the total earnings and invested assets. If we want to color the cells based on the values being high or low, we can also drag one of these calculations in the color panel. I'm going to drag earnings to cost ratio in the color and minimize the cross tab. So we can see that the cells of earnings to cost ratio are now color coded. The low should not be green. The low should be red. So we will change the property by opening the properties. And for the conditional palette, we will reverse the order, minimize. So we can now see that the low numbers are highlighted with red and the good numbers or high numbers are highlighted with darker green shades. This kind of color coding is really helpful to quickly see which are the outliers. Let's also reduce the height because we have got lots of rows here. So we'll open the properties again and expand chart and change the default row height from 60 to 40. Let's save the dashboard. We can increase the height and let's view it one more time in the full screen mode. So we are able to now see all the branches without scrolling up and down. We have sorted them based on the earnings to asset ratio. So we can see that Sussex branch is the worst performer, whereas City of London is the best performer from earnings to asset ratio. And next to that, we are showing the earnings to cost ratio. And there we have color coded the cells. So we can see that again, the worst performer is Sussex branch, whereas the best performers are Money Street, North Yorkshire, and Victoria Street. In our next video, we will create the product page and we will also learn about the KPI widget. Product page and learn about KPI widget. So far, we have built 2 tabs in this dashboard. The first tab is called the bank-wide annual performance, which shows us the performance data at region level. Then the second tab allows comparison between all the branches across all the regions. Now we have clearly seen that the Sussex branch is having poor performance compared to all other branches. So we are now going to create one more tab, and we are going to look at which product within the Sussex branch is driving this dip in performance. So instead of creating the tab from scratch, we are going to reuse this branch level performance tab by clicking on the tab and then selecting this option to duplicate. And we are going to rename by clicking on the tab name and then changing it to product performance. So I want to focus only on Sussex branch. For that, we will click on Sussex branch and then right click and choose this option called keep. By keeping Sussex branch, we have basically got rid of all other branches, and essentially it has created a visualization level local filter, which we can see by clicking on this filter icon. Here we can see that a filter called branch name equals Sussex branch has been added here. And we are going to break this grid by products. So we will open the product list and drag product.item and put it on the rows next to Sussex branch. So here we can see the earnings to asset ratio and the earnings to cost ratio for all of these products. The CA performance data is actually available at the product level, whereas the branch cost data is only available at the branch level. So I'm going to remove this because it is not a very good parameter for comparison. So we expand the cross tab and remove the earnings to cost ratio. And we are going to explicitly show the total earnings by expanding CA performance and dragging total earnings before the earnings to asset ratio. We minimize the cross tab, and we are clearly seeing that the personal loans are the underperformer products. In this video, I want to show a new widget called KPI widget, which recently got added to this Cognos Analytics version. So please open the visualization panel and drag the KPI widget. KPI widget needs a base value and a target value. Here we are going to use total earnings as the base value, which we want to show is the KPI. And for the target, we are going to create a new calculation, which is going to be 1% of the invested asset. That means for each product, we want that the earnings must be at least 1% of the invested assets. So we click on CA performance data, overflow icon, choose calculation, call it earnings target, and define it as invested assets divided by 100, which means if the invested asset is 100 million, then the earnings must be at least 1 million. We click on OK, and now use this earnings target as the target value. As soon as we drag it, we can now see that this KPI visualization is showing us the total earnings as the big number on the top. It is showing the earnings target below, and we can see that because our earning is lower than the target, so the number is turned to red and it is showing a downwards arrow. The next option here is to add time. So I need you to expand the months table and drag the date attribute and put it in the time property. And we now see that Cognos has plotted a microchart. Basically, Cognos is now projecting the total earnings over the months in this microchart. So we can see the trend of this total earnings for the Sussex branch. Let's minimize it and think about what is the data that we are trying to show on this tab. We are focusing on Sussex branch and we are comparing the products. So I want to basically show the two worst performing products and the two best performing products using this KPI widgets. So I'm going to choose the personal loan 1 to 5 years in Sussex branch as the local filter for this. So we open the widget again and we are going to drag the branch name and display value in the local filter, and we will select the Sussex branch. We will also drag product in the local filter, and we will choose personal loans 1 to 5 years and click on OK. So that's the data which is now restricted to Sussex branch and personal loans. We can minimize it. And we will quickly change the template of this tab to this one, which has got the 4 sections on top, and click on OK. We will reduce the height of this cross tab and drag our widget to the first section because this indicates the worst performing product. We should also give it a title by clicking on this plus icon for the widget and then choosing the text option. Let's see how it will look in the full screen. So we go back, we can reduce the font size for the title to 14. So it gives more space for the microchart to be shown. It looks good. So we are now going to duplicate this by selecting the widget and then choosing the duplicate option. We will make 4 copies and then place each of them in one of these 4 sections on the top. And we are going to change the products. So we click on the filter icon. The second one we will use is the personal loans under 1 year because we see that that's the second worst performing product. And the 2 best performing products are going to be mortgage, first home, and overdraft. We will also change the titles. So we have changed the titles to represent the appropriate filter. And let's view this in full screen. So this page is also filtered for 2019. We can hide the filter panel. We have applied the Sussex branch filtering in each widget rather than applying at the tab level. And we have chosen 2 worst performing and 2 best performing products to be shown using the KPI widget on the top. We learned that the KPI widget shows a KPI value and its comparison to a target. Whenever the value is higher than target, we can see that the value as well as the microchart are shown in green, whereas whenever the value is lower than the target, they are shown in red. It's a very modern looking and powerful widget to be used for KPIs, and it shows a lot of information without us having to create the conditional styling or create calculations like the percentage differences. We will go back to the edit screen and make sure that our dashboard is saved. In our next video, we will create the contributors page and we will learn about waterfall and radial charts. Contributors page with waterfall and radial charts. In this video, we are going to create the last tab for this dashboard where we will focus on the employees. We have already figured that Sussex branch has got poor performance compared to the other branches in the year of 2019. And we have also built a page where we could compare the product performance. Now let's create a new tab and choose the first template, click on OK. And we are going to learn about two new widgets in this video. The first widget is the waterfall chart. So click on the waterfall widget. And here we can see that waterfall widget can accept one numerical measure which will be plotted on the y-axis. In this case, as we are focusing on earnings, we are going to drag total earnings metric or measure and put it on y-axis. I'm going to use this waterfall chart as a driver for the radial chart, and I want to break the total earnings of 2019 by products. So let's drag product and put it on x-axis. And now we can see that the earnings for each product are being shown next to each other as the increment, leading to a final number which represents the total for the whole year. Now currently this widget is not filtered for 2019, so let's minimize and drag the year in the tab filter and choose 2019. So we can see how each product contributed to the 2019 earning, leading to this total earning of over 60 million. Let's also restrict the tab to Sussex branch by dragging the branch name onto the tab filter and selecting Sussex branch. So our waterfall is now showing the contribution of each product to the overall 2019 earning for Sussex branch. The other widget we are going to use on this page is called radial chart. So open the widget panel and drag radial chart onto the page. Here we are going to show the employees. So drag person name from the employee list table in the bars area and open CA performance data and drag total earnings in the length. Let's minimize and increase the size of this chart to take the second half of the section. We are going to label these charts. So for the first one, we are going to label as earnings contribution by products. And the second one will be contribution by employees. Now we will double check that both these widgets are connected to each other by clicking on the widget connections. And we can see that both are having same number. That means they are connected to each other. So let's go back and rename the tab to contributors. Let's view it in full screen. We can minimize the filters panel. And now if we click on any one product here, say buy to let mortgage, we can see that the radial chart has reacted to it and it is showing us the employee contribution for 2019 for this product. So here, for example, Malcolm has contributed $25,000 to buy to let mortgage, whereas the highest performance is from Gretel with 39,000. Radial chart is a very nice visual representation for peer comparison. I find it similar to the racing track. So you can easily see who has contributed more or who is closer to the finishing line if we had a target data. If I wanted to look at some other product, I can simply choose the flying tile. For example, overdraft is one of the high performing product. So if we click on overdraft, we can quickly see who are the best performing employees for this product, as well as who need a lot of improvement. It can also work the other way around. For example, we can pick an employee and now see the performance for this employee across all of the products on left hand side. So this particular tab is going to be very useful to discuss with the branch manager or to discuss the individual performance with any employee. Let's hit escape and make sure that our dashboard is saved. Let's quickly recap what we learned in this section. When we started the section, we created the summary page where we learned about creating the cross tab, and we also learned about the navigation to drill down to the markets and branches as well as to drill across to the products. Then we created the branch level performance tab where we learned about how to create calculations at the dashboard level and also learned about an important property called calculation after aggregation. After that, we created this tab called Product Performance, and here we used the KPI widget, which is great for showing the key performance indicators against their targets and also their trends. And finally, we created the Contributors tab, which will be a great tool to discuss the performance of employees with the branch managers as well as with the employees themselves. I look forward to seeing you in the next section called Advanced Features for Data Module and Dashboard. Section 6. Advanced Features for Data Module and Dashboard. Creating Data Groups. Before we begin, I would like you to open my contents and create a new folder here and call it Section 6 Achievements. Once the folder is created, please open Section 5 Achievements and open the dashboard that we were working on in the previous section. And now click on Save As option, and let's make a copy in Section 6 Achievements folder and click on Save. I also need you to make copy of the data module. For that, go to my contents and open Section 4 Achievements folder and open the branch costs and performance module from here. And now save as my contents, Section 6 Achievements, and then click on Save. So in this section, we are going to make more changes to our data module and dashboard, and all of those changes will be saved in the Section 6 folder. Let's go back to the dashboard and talk about creating the data groups. On our Contributors tab, we have used two visualization. Let's view it on the full screen mode. And now I need you to click anywhere on the waterfall chart in the white space. Now notice that when you click on this white space, you get these three options in a small menu. The third option here is called Select Tool. This dotted square would allow us to select multiple categories and then create the data groups for them. So if I scroll down, I can see that right now all of these flying tiles relate to the following products which we see on the x-axis. Here we have two products which both belong to personal loans categories. One is personal loans 1 to 5 years and the other one is personal loans under 1 year. So I would like to combine them together and form one group called personal loans products. In same way, we have two mortgage products as well. The first one is called buy to let mortgage, whereas the second one is called mortgage first home. And I would like to combine them also as one group called mortgage products. In order to do that, we need to click on the select tool, hold the control key down, and now click on the first home mortgage, as well as the tile for the buy to let mortgage. We can see that two tiles are now highlighted. Now we need to click on this icon called data group and then give it a name as mortgage products and click on create. Cognos has now combined the data for those two products together and it is showing us as one category called mortgage products. We are going to repeat this for the personal loans. So first we will click in the white space and make sure that the select tool is enabled. You can notice that even the mouse cursor changes so that we know that we are in the selection mode. I'm going to first select the personal loans under 1 year from the tile. And now I'm going to select personal loans 1 to 5 years from the x-axis. And we can see that both the tiles are now highlighted. And we will click on data groups icon again and call it as personal loans products. Let's click anywhere in the white space and turn off the select mode. So our waterfall visualization is now showing fewer tiles than what it was showing before, because we have combined two mortgage products into one and we have combined two personal loan products into one. You can always click on the mortgage products, right click, and then choose to drill down. When you do that, you will be able to see the two mortgage products separately. And if you go back up, you can again see the product with the product grouping. This way, some visualizations allow creating data groups, which is very handy to combine the product categories which are of similar nature or which may be having really small values, and hence you may want to combine them together to project in the visualization. In our next video, we will learn about creating relative dates filter. Creating relative dates filter. We have currently designed this dashboard with a year filter. So every time we move into a new year or we would like to see data for a different year, we can click on it and we can change the year. However, imagine that you have another dashboard which is a daily or monthly dashboard. In that case, you would want the day or month to change automatically to represent the current month or prior month, etc. In order for the dates to change dynamically, Cognos provides an extremely powerful feature, and that is called relative dates, which we are going to look at in this video. For that, we go back to the module which we have saved in the section 6. To add the relative dates, we need at least one date attribute, which is going to drive all of the data in our dashboard. In our case, we have got this date column, and when you click on it and open its properties, it is being recognized as date. This is a mandatory requirement for using relative date feature. Once you have identified the date attribute in your data module, you need to click on the plus icon on top and add new sources. Now we are going to use an existing module which Cognos provides. So click on team content, calendars, and choose Gregorian calendar. Now notice that the calendar has been added to our module. Basically, it's a link which has been created. And this calendar already has a predefined filters for prior month, prior quarter, prior year, etc. So all of these filters are going to work with the system date. For example, if I am in April and I choose prior month, it's going to give me data for March of the current year. The next thing we need to do is open the properties of this date item, and here add the lookup reference of this calendar data module. Once that is done, expand this data item, and notice all of those filters are now available within the date data item. In addition to this, we can also attach those filters to the metrics or measures. So let's open the branch cost data table and open infrastructure costs. Now notice that currently there is no option to expand this. However, as soon as we add the lookup reference of month's date, all of those filters which we were seeing in the date data item will now be applied on this measure. So we now get the option to expand it. And Cognos has automatically created virtual measure items as prior month infrastructure cost, prior quarter infrastructure costs, and so on. I find this feature extremely useful for all the developers because so far in majority of the reporting tools, I have seen that developers have to create these relative measures by defining the filter conditions, whereas Cognos allows defining the filters in one data module and then reusing it in any data module with any measure with a lot of ease. Let's save this data module and we go back to our dashboard. In order to make sure that our changes reflect here, we need to relink. So we go to the edit mode and we are going to relink the data module. By going to the data module, open the menu and choose the relink option. Now this time we are going to link it to the copy which we modified in section 6 achievements folder, and choose this module and click on use. So Cognos has now relinked our dashboard to the new modified data module, and we can quickly expand the branch cost data, and we can see that infrastructure cost is now available with the expansion option. And we can see that all of these virtual measures are now available for us to use in the dashboard. So just to reiterate, all of these measures are basically using the filters, which we see under the date data item. And this filter essentially works against the system date. It is going to give us the data relative to the system date. We will try and use one of these virtual measures in our next video, which is called Add Map Visualization. Add Map Visualization. In this video, we are going to learn how to add map visualization on our dashboard, and we are going to use those relative date filters and relative date categories. We are going to create a new tab now. I want you to select this template, which has got 4 sections, and then click on OK. And let's call this tab as Market Penetration. First of all, we are going to use a cross-tab visualization and then drag it on the left-hand side. I would like you to drag the branch cost data, infrastructure cost, year-to-date measure in the values panel. And now on the rows, I would like you to drag date data item. So notice that on the rows, because we have selected date data item, it is projecting all the months of 2019 and then all the months of 2020. However, the infrastructure cost is only appearing from January to April because I'm recording this video in the month of April 2020. So this year-to-date virtual metrics is making use of the date filter, and hence it is fetching the year-to-date data. In other words, it is going to fetch me data for January to the current month. So this way you can see that this metric is going to change every month, and in next month it is going to fetch me data from January to May. So it's going to grow as I move in the time. Instead of using year-to-date, if we remove that column and use current year and drag the values, Cognos is now going to filter and bring only those values which belong to the current year. So again, we can see that all of the 2019 are null, whereas only the months of 2020 are now showing data. This way, all of these virtual measures can be used to pull out data relative to the system date. On this tab, I'm going to use map visualization to project the infrastructure costs over 3 regions. So first of all, we will remove this column and we are going to drag YTD again. And now we will remove the date attribute and expand branch hierarchy, drag region data items into the rows. Now we can see the year-to-date infrastructure cost for the 3 regions. Let's minimize this cross tab and duplicate it by clicking on the plus icon and then selecting the option to duplicate and open this new cross tab. Here we would like to project all the branches, so remove the regions and instead drag branch name display values on the rows. And instead of showing the infrastructure cost, we are going to show invested assets. So this cross-step shows how much we have penetrated in the market, which is clearly visible by invested asset. And we are going to show this by branch. So minimize the cross-step and move it into the bottom section. On right hand side, I would like you to drag the map visualization. Map visualization accepts 3 parameters. They are called regions, points, latitude, and longitude. For regions, please drag the branch hierarchy region attribute and place it into locations. Cognos is able to recognize the popular locations on the world map. So in this case, we are storing the values as England, Scotland, and Wales. And Cognos is able to locate them on the map, which are Scotland, England, and Wales. And we are going to color these 3 regions based on their infrastructure cost. So open the branch cost data and drag the same infrastructure cost year-to-date measure. And we can see that Cognos has now colored these 3 regions based on the value for the year-to-date infrastructure cost. Wherever the infrastructure cost is higher, it is going to mark that region with darker shade, whereas where the infrastructure cost is lower, it is going to mark those regions with lighter shade. Over these regions, we are now going to project the invested assets for the branches. And for each branch, we already have the latitude and longitude in our branch hierarchy. So we will open this section and then drag latitude in the latitude panel and longitude in the longitude panel. As soon as we do that, Cognos has now projected each of the branches as the points on the map. For the labels, we would like to use the branch names. So let's drag branch name and place in the label. And we would like to color these points based on their invested assets. So let's drag it from CA performance data and then drag it in the point color. So now Cognos is projecting those branches on the map and the points will be colored based on the invested asset. So wherever invested asset is high, we have a deeper market penetration. The points are going to be shown with the darker shades. Wherever we have low invested asset, the points are going to be shown with the lighter shade. Let's minimize and now resize this map visualization to take the entire space on the right hand side. Let's view this tab in full screen and we can now zoom in. We can also decide which layers we want to show and which we don't want to show. For example, if you only want to show the regions, but not the latitude longitude, you can turn them off, or vice versa, only keep the branches and hide the regions. Let's take a moment to understand what data we are showing. So basically, we have got year-to-date infrastructure cost on the left-hand side, and we are projecting these costs on the map using the region colors. And then in the below table, we have got the invested assets for all the branches, and we are projecting those using the points on the map. So here we can see that even though the infrastructure cost is low in Scotland, both the branches in Aberdeen and Edinburgh have got deeper market penetration and a large invested asset value. Whereas within the England region, where the infrastructure cost is really high, among all of the branches, this Sussex branch is having a low invested asset value, which also represents a low market penetration, and it is clearly standing out in our visualization. We can see that the numbers here are not presented in the same format. Sussex branch is being presented with 2 decimal places. So we can adjust that by going back into the edit mode and then click on invested asset, right click, choose the format option and set it to 0 decimal places. So all the numbers are now shown in the same number format. And that's all. We have easily overlaid the numerical data onto map, which is a powerful visualization. Sometimes it also helps to find correlations between certain regions as well as outliers on the world map. In our next video, we will look at predictive forecasting. Predictive forecasting. Cognos is a robust and versatile calculation engine, and in this new version of Cognos Analytics, it brings the forecasting capabilities to us without having to write complex statistical programs. In this video, we are going to take a look at some simple forecasting methods. For that, I would like you to first save this dashboard, and now click on a new tab and choose the template with 4 sections, and click on OK, and drag line visualization and place it in the first section. We are going to use the line visualization to project the cost data. So drag total cost in the y-axis and expand months and drag date on the x-axis. So we can see that Cognos is now projecting the total cost by months on this simple line chart. The line chart also allows forecasting, and that can be enabled by clicking on this forecast button. So enable the forecasting option and choose forecast periods to be 12. And now minimize this option and expand the line chart to take all of the width. And let's view it in full screen and understand what's going on. Essentially, Cognos is now looking at the data available in the 24 data points, which are the 24 months of 2019 and 20. And it is automatically identifying the seasoning, as in which months typically have low cost and which months typically have higher cost. And it is